The invitation to my parents' 40th anniversary celebration arrived via courier. Thick vellum paper, calligraphy addressing. Mom's signature style for events she wanted photographed in the society pages. I opened it standing in my London office, 17 floors above the financial district. The view stretched across the Thames toward Parliament. Inside, a single card. Mr. and Mrs. Harrison Whitmore request the honor of your presence. No +1. No guest accommodation. I called Mom that evening, mourning for her in Connecticut. Darling, did you get the invitation? I did. It's beautiful. Your father insisted on the garden venue. We're expecting 200 guests, the governor confirmed, and Senator Blackwell, and the entire board of Harrison's company. It's going to be quite the affair. She paused. We weren't sure if you'd be able to make it with your situation overseas. My situation. That's what she called my job as Senior Vice President of International Acquisitions for Meridian Global Holdings. The job that had me negotiating billion-dollar deals across 4 continents. The job that came with a 7-figure salary, stock options, and yes, access to the company's fleet of private aircraft. I'll be there, I said. Wonderful. Though I should mention we had to be very selective about +1s. Space constraints, you understand. Just immediate family and their spouses. What about Uncle James's girlfriend? Aunt Carol's partner? Well, they're established relationships. Long-term. Not like what was his name? The one you mentioned at Christmas. Dimitri. My boyfriend of 3 years. The human rights attorney I'd met in Geneva. He's actually. I'm sure he's lovely, dear, but you understand how these things work. We need to maintain a certain caliber of guest. People the governor and senator will want to meet. Network with. Your father's reputation depends on these connections. Translation. My relationship wasn't impressive enough. Dimitri didn't have the right pedigree, despite his doctorate from Oxford and his work prosecuting war crimes at The Hague. Of course, Mom. I understand perfectly. After I hung up, I looked at my calendar. The anniversary was in 3 weeks. I had a meeting in Dubai that week, then Geneva, then. An idea formed. Crazy. Absolutely perfect. I called my assistant. Catherine, I need you to reach out to the Meridian Aviation Department. I want to know the availability of the G650 for personal use the weekend of the 24th. The large jet? That's. I know what it cost. Check anyway. Then I made another call. To a contact in my phone listed simply as HRH Private Secretary. 2 weeks before the anniversary, Dad called. Sophia, your mother mentioned you're coming. Flying commercial, I assume? I can have Gerald pick you up from JFK. Gerald. Their driver. The man who'd picked me up from the airport for 15 years like I was luggage to be collected. That won't be necessary. I'm arranging my own transportation. Oh. He sounded surprised I was capable. Well, if you're renting a car. Not a car. I'll text you details when I have them. Sophia, this event is very important. Your mother has planned every detail. Please don't show up in something inappropriate. Inappropriate. Like the used Honda I'd driven in college while my younger brother Marcus got a new BMW. Like the studio apartment I'd rented in New York while working my way up from analyst to associate to VP, while Marcus lived in their guest house rent-free during business school. Don't worry, Dad. I know exactly what's appropriate. The week of the anniversary, everything fell into place. The Dubai deal closed early, $2.3 billion acquisition that would be announced in the Financial Times. The Geneva meeting wrapped ahead of schedule. And my special guests confirmed their attendance. I texted my parents' address to the aviation coordinator with specific instructions. Land at Westchester County Airport at 2 p.m. Saturday. Ground transportation to be arranged for all passengers. My parents' anniversary garden party started at 3 p.m. Friday evening, I flew from Geneva to London, then London to New York on the Meridian G650. 12-passenger luxury jet with full bedroom suite, conference room, and cabin crew trained in 5-star hospitality. The cabin was configured for my weekend passengers. Myself, Dimitri, and 3 very special guests. We landed at Westchester at 1:50 p.m. Saturday. I changed in the bedroom suite, navy silk dress, Chanel, tasteful jewelry. When I emerged, Dimitri was helping our guests with their belongings. Ready? He asked, straightening his tie. More than ready. The motorcade was waiting. 3 black SUVs with diplomatic flags. We arrived at my parents' estate at 2:45 p.m. The garden was already full. Women in pastel dresses and men in blazers, champagne glasses catching afternoon sunlight. White tents, string quartet, ice sculptures. Mom had outdone herself. I spotted my family immediately. Mom in lavender silk, Dad in a gray suit, Marcus and his wife Felicity holding court with a cluster of older couples. The governor stood near the bar. Senator Blackwell was laughing at something Dad said. We walked in through the garden gate. Me first, then Dimitri, then our 3 guests. The quartet stopped playing. Conversations died mid-sentence. Because walking behind me in elegant afternoon attire with discreet security detail flanking them, were 3 members of European royalty. Not British. My contacts weren't quite that good, but genuine titled aristocracy from a small but wealthy European nation. A duke, his wife the Duchess, and their daughter who happened to sit on the board of 2 international humanitarian organizations. They also happened to be close personal friends with Dimitri's family and had become friends with me over the past 2 years of working on cross-border legal initiatives. Mom's champagne glass slipped from her hand. It shattered on the flagstone. Dad's face went through several colors before settling on pale gray. Marcus's mouth actually fell open. Mom, Dad, I said brightly. So sorry we're a few minutes late. The landing slot at Westchester was delayed. You remember Dimitri, I've mentioned him. And may I introduce His Grace the Duke of Liechtenstein, Her Grace the Duchess and their daughter Lady Charlotte. The Duke stepped forward smoothly, extending his hand to my father. Mr. Whitmore, thank you for accommodating us on such short notice. Your daughter was kind enough to offer transportation when she learned we'd be in New York this weekend. When she mentioned your anniversary, we couldn't possibly refuse the invitation. There had been no invitation. But my father didn't need to know that. Of course, Your Grace, Dad was stammering. I'd never heard him stammer in my life. Mom had recovered slightly. We're honored. So honored. Please let me introduce you to, she looked around desperately. Governor Richards. Senator Blackwell. May I present? The Duke and Duchess moved through the party with practiced grace, making conversation, charming everyone they met. Lady Charlotte stayed near me and Dimitri, discussing her foundation work with a cluster of fascinated guests. Your daughter has been instrumental in our refugee legal aid initiative, she was saying to a circle of rapt socialites. Her work on the cross-border legal framework has helped us process over 15,000 asylum cases. She's quite brilliant. Mom appeared at my elbow, face tight. Sophia, darling, might I have a word? We moved away from the crowd, near the rose garden where I'd played as a child. You didn't tell us you were bringing guests, Mom hissed. Especially such significant guests. You said space was limited. I assumed you'd want to accommodate actual titled aristocracy. Or should I have asked them to wait in the car? Her eye twitched. That's not what I meant and you know it. How do you even, when did I become friends with European nobility? Around the same time I became Senior Vice President of International Acquisitions. Around the same time I started negotiating deals with sovereign wealth funds and royal investment offices. Around the same time you stopped asking what I actually do for a living. We ask about your job. You ask if I'm still doing the London thing. You ask when I'm going to settle down and move back to Connecticut. You've never once asked about a deal I've closed, a negotiation I've led, or an achievement I'm proud of. She opened her mouth, then closed it. How did you get here? She finally asked. You said you were arranging transportation. Meridian's G650. 12-passenger jet. We flew from London with a Geneva stop to collect Dimitri and our guests. You have access to a private jet? For company business, yes. I asked to use it for personal travel this weekend. They approved it. That must cost about $30,000. I paid personally. I watched her process that. That's roughly what you spent on Marcus's wedding rehearsal dinner. The one where you sat me at the kids' table with his wife's teenage cousins. Her face flushed. You're still upset about that? I'm not upset, Mom. I'm just done. Done pretending I'm less than I am because it makes you comfortable. Done being excluded from your important events because I don't fit your vision of success. That's not fair. Isn't it? I said. You didn't invite Dimitri because he's not the right kind of impressive. But you'd love a photo with a duke, wouldn't you? Mom flinched. Dad walked up, a little drunk, smiling too much. Sophia. The duke was just telling us about business in Europe. He said you've been consulting for their investment office. Advisory role, I said. Helping them manage their portfolio. Dad blinked. That's impressive. You never said you worked at that level. You never asked, Dad, I said. You just ask if I'm still at that finance company, then switch to Marcus's promotion. His smile faded. Marcus has done well. He runs regional sales. That's fine. But I negotiate billion-dollar international deals. The Financial Times wrote about me today. Page 3. Dubai deal. I closed $2.3 billion this week. He just stared. You didn't know, I said, because whenever I talk about work you ask if I've met someone nice. If I'll have kids. If I'll come home and do something sensible. We just want you to be happy. No. You want me to fit what you understand. That's different. Marcus and his wife Felicity joined us. Nice entrance, sophomore private jet? Marcus said. Company jet. For business use. I got approval for personal travel. Must be nice, Felicity said sharply. Some of us work real jobs. I smiled. Your husband makes $180,000 a year. I make $750,000 base plus bonus and stock. Last year $1.4 million total. I think I've earned it. The silence was heavy. Marcus turned red. You make what? Look up the salary range for Fortune 500 international acquisitions. I fit right in. He looked at our parents. She never told us. I tried, I said quietly. At Thanksgiving I mentioned becoming VP. You ignored it for Marcus's sales award. At Christmas I brought up the Tokyo deal. Dad changed the topic. At Easter I said I'd been promoted to senior VP. Mom asked if I was dating anyone. They all stared, stunned. Lady Charlotte appeared with the Duke and Duchess. Sophia, we should go. Dinner in Manhattan at 7. Of course. I turned to my parents. Happy anniversary. Thanks for inviting us. You're leaving. Mom said. But people haven't. We came, we celebrated, and now we have other commitments, I said. That's how it works, right? Showing up only when it suits the schedule. The Duke shook Dad's hand. Lovely event, Mr. Whitmore. Your daughter is a credit to you. You must be proud. After they left, my parents stood frozen. The governor wanted a photo with them, Dad muttered. But they're gone. Yes, I said. They are. I turned back. By the way, Dimitri prosecutes war criminals at The Hague. He has a doctorate from Oxford. Speaks 6 languages. He's kind, brilliant, and makes me happy. You didn't want him here because his last name isn't in your registry. Sophia, Mom reached for me. I'll see you at Christmas. Maybe. If there's room for me and my wrong boyfriend. I walked to the garden where Dimitri waited. The cars were ready. Lady Charlotte smiled as we got in. That was dramatic. Too much. Not at all, she said. Sometimes family needs reminding. They don't define your worth. And arriving by private jet? Perfect. Thanks, I said. And for being here. Anytime, she said. We flew back to London that night. Dimitri worked beside me reading case notes. I watched the sunset, feeling lighter than I had in years. My phone buzzed. From Marcus. Didn't know. I'm sorry. From Dad. Can we talk? From Mom. Dimitri seems wonderful. I'd like to know him. I put the phone down. Maybe I'd reply later. Maybe not. For now, I had a deal to prepare, a case to discuss, and a life I'd built by myself. They once said there wasn't room for everyone. Turns out I'd been important enough all along. They just never noticed.